Okay, welcome to 9.1 of the Pythagorean Theorem. Some things we need to point out here is what the Pythagorean Theorem is. Notice that c squared is on the left side of the equal sign. It's good to put it there. That's your hypotenuse. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The a and the b are the two sides that make up the 90 degrees. Okay, and then the converse says if you take the two sides that you think are around the 90 degree angle and you square them and add them together, if a squared plus b squared is then equal to c squared, then you know this is a right triangle. Over here, this is the other thing that's important. If you take the two shortest sides, square them, and add them together, if the hypotenuse looking one, the longer side, is less than all of those, then that is an acute triangle. If the longer side squared is greater than those other two sides, then this is an obtuse triangle. And then here's examples of Pythagorean triples. They all make right triangles, 3, 4, 5. So 3 squared plus 4 squared, that's 9 plus 16 is 25. That equals c squared. 5 squared is 25. So all of these are a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's do some homework. Find the value of x. All right, so number 1. So the two sides, we have 7 squared plus 11 squared equals x squared. So x is in the c position, so that's what we're going to figure out. 49 plus 121 equals x squared. 49 and 121 is 170. So what is x squared? So you take the square root of that, and you get, we break it down. So that's 17 times 10. That doesn't break down, okay? Because that is 2 and 5. And none of those break down, so the answer should be the square root of 170. So it's not a Pythagorean triple. Pythagorean triple means it would have to actually be a perfect square root. All right, number 2. We have 16 squared plus 30 squared equals x squared. X is in the c position again. So take your calculator and figure out what all of these things are. Okay, so take your calculator and take 16 squared, and you get 256, and 30 squared is 900. So that would be 1156, and take the square root of 1156. So 1156, take the square root, and you get 34. That's x. And so this is a Pythagorean triple, 16, 30, and 34. Number 3, you have 8 squared plus x squared equals 17 squared. 17 is in the c position. So now we have 64 plus x squared equals 289. Okay, so take 289 minus 64, and x squared is equal to 225. Take the square root, so x is equal to 15. And that's a Pythagorean triple, 8, 15, 17. All right, and then number 4, we'll just do on the bottom here. You have x squared plus 9 squared equals 24 squared. Okay, so now you have x squared plus 81 equals 24 squared, which is 576, minus 81, that gives us 495. So x squared is equal to 495. Take the square root of 495, and that's 22.24. Okay, not a Pythagorean triple. All right, let's move on. Number 5, what did they do wrong? So let's just solve the problem first. So 1 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. 1 plus 4 equals x squared. 5 equals x squared. Take the square root, and x equals the square root of 5. Okay, what did they do wrong? They forgot to take the square root. They didn't square c. Number 6, again, just solve the problem because you have to anyway. So x squared plus 100, plus 26 squared is 676. Minus the 100 is 576. And you take the square root of 576, and you get 24. Let me make sure I did that right. 576 sounds right. It's 24. All right. And they put the x in the c position, and that's in the wrong position. Modeling real life, find the distance between the two platforms. So we want the height there. Here's your triangle. So 16.7 is your C, 8.9 is your base, and so is x. So x squared plus 8.9 squared equals 16.7 squared. So 16.7 squared, 16.7 is 278.89, and 8.9 squared is 79.21. So let's subtract 278 minus 0.89 minus 79.21. And x squared is equal to 199.68. And you take the square root of that, and you get 14.13 feet. Number 8, television sizes are measured by lengths of their diagonals. So here's your triangle. Okay, or up at the top is your triangle. So you have your bases. So x is your hypotenuse, and you want to know if you want to purchase a television that is at least 40 inches. So we want to know, should we purchase this one? So let's figure it out. 20.25 squared plus 36 squared, does that equal the x squared? So 20.25 squared is 410.0625, and 36 squared is 1,296. So we add those two together, 410.0625. Rats. All right, let's do it again. 410.0625. It's hard to hit the right buttons. Plus 1,296. That's 1,706.0625. That's x squared. So you have to take the square root of that number, and we get 41.3. So yes, it is at least 40 inches, so they can go ahead and purchase it. Tell whether the triangle is a right triangle. So it looks like this is a 90 degree. We're not sure, so let's go ahead and figure it out. So these two numbers would be your A and your B. 65 squared plus 72 squared equals 97 squared. Let's see if that's true. So 65 squared is 4,225, and 72 squared is 5,184. So those two added together, 4,225, that's 9,409. So what is 97 squared? That's 9,409. So yes, that makes a right triangle. Number 10, this appears to be the 90 degree angle, so we're going to use those for A and B. So 21.2 squared plus 11.4 squared, that should equal the 23 squared. So 21.2 squared is 449.44, and 11.4 squared is 129.96, and 23 squared is 529. So 449.44 plus 129.96, that gives us 579.4, which is not the same thing as 529. So no, that doesn't make a right triangle. Try these. Again, this appears to be the 90 degree angle, so that's your A and B. 14 squared plus 10 squared, does that equal 4 squared and 19 squared? Not 119, 19. All right, so 14 squared is 196. 10 squared is 100. And when we square this is what you have. I'll write it out here. So 4 times the square root of 19 times 4 times the square root of 19. So let me rearrange it. So you have 2 square root of 19. So there's your pair. So that's 4 times 4 times 19. So 4 times 4 times 19 is 304. And 196 and 100 is 296. So no, that doesn't make a right triangle. Again, number 12, this looks like the 90 degree angle, so 5 and 1 are your A and B. 5 squared plus 1 squared, does that equal the square root of 26 squared? So 25 plus 1 is 26, and when we square a square root, that means we have pairs, which means that's 26. And so yes, that makes a right triangle. Same thing here. This appears to be the 90-degree angle, so we'll use 2 and 6. 2 squared plus 6 squared equals 3 squared of 5 squared. So that's 4 plus 36. That's 40. Now we have 3 squared of 5 times 3 squared of 5. 3 times 3 is 9, and square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. That's 45. So no, that's not a right triangle. Over here, that appears to be 90 degrees, so 80 and 39 are your A and B. 80 squared plus 39 squared should equal 89 squared. So 80 squared is 6,400, and 39 squared is 1,521. So those two together make 8,200. Let me make sure that's right. 6,400 plus 1,521. Yeah, 79.21. That makes sense. And then 89 squared is 79.21. So yes, that's a right triangle. Determine whether the segment lengths form a triangle. If so, is the triangle acute, right, or obtuse? So first of all, the two smaller sides added together have to be bigger than the third side. So yes, it makes a triangle. Now, is it acute, right, or obtuse? So we put the biggest side first. So we're doing c squared. Is it greater than, less than, or equal to the a squared plus b squared? Always put the bigger number first. So you have 14 squared, and then you have 10 squared plus 11 squared. 14 squared is 196. 10 squared is 100. 11 squared is 121. So 196 and 221. Well, so c squared is smaller than 221. So that means this is an acute triangle. All right, again, put the bigger number first, but 6 plus 8 is 14. This does not make a triangle. So we don't even need to figure this out. What about these? 12 and 16 are bigger than 20, so we're going to take the bigger number and square it, then the two smaller numbers and square them and add them together. 400, 144, and 256. And that is 400 and 256 plus 144. That's 400. So they're equal. So this is a right triangle because a squared plus b squared does equal c squared. All right, 15 and 20 is bigger than 26. So you take 26 squared, and you take 15 squared plus 20 squared. 26 squared is 676. 15 squared is 225, and 20 squared is 400. So 676, and that's 625. So c squared is greater than your a squared plus b squared. So that means this is an obtuse triangle. Do it again. 4.1 and 8.2 is 12.3. So no, this is not a triangle. That's 11, that's 12, which is bigger than 7.8. So it does make a triangle. Now what kind? 7.8 squared plus 5, not plus. 5.3 squared plus 6.7 squared. 7.8 squared is 60.84. 5.3 squared is 28.09. And 6.7 squared is 44.89. All right, so 28.9, 09, excuse me, plus the 44.89 is 72.98. So, c squared is less than your a squared plus b squared. So this is an acute triangle. All right, so now you need to know what 6 times the square root of 43 is. So let's do the square root of 43, and that's 6.557, and we multiply it times 6, and that gives us 39.3446 something. So 24 and 30, the smallest two sides, are bigger than the third side. So now we take the big side, that's your c, and we square it. Take the two smaller sides, square them, and add them together. So 24 squared is 576. 30 squared is 900. So that's 1476. Now, we have two of these. So 6 square root of 43 times 6 square root of 43. The two pairs make 43, and 6 times 6 is 36. So 43 times 36 is 1,548, which is bigger than 1,476. So this is an obtuse triangle. Now, what is 5 times the square root of 13? That gives you 18.03. 10 plus 15 is bigger than that, so take the bigger side, square it, take the two small sides, square them, and add them together. So 100 and 225 is 325. So what is c squared? Well, that's going to be 25, and two square roots give me just what's inside. So 25 times 13 is 325. So these are equal, so this is a right triangle. And there is all your answers. There are all your answers. So good job.